Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's PNG. It's Proclamation News and Gavance back again with the Flux News. Yes, absolutely. And headlines again: Dolly Parton and again Black Lives Matter. Again, I come from both all ethnicities in my family. It's a lot of mixed ethnicities in my family. All lives matter, not just Black Lives Matter because we've got some major headline in the news today. It needs to be spoke about. It needs to be supported, and I'm gonna make a petition after this cast. I hope everyone supports this. My mother's black, my dad being white. I've got my uncle's African. I've got a lot of English white people in my family also. I love all ethnicities. We all come as one. There's a lot of public debate about Black Lives Matter, but today in the national news, it's a bit shocking. A 5-year-old's been executed by a 5-year-old white boy has been executed by a black man. Um, it's very shocking to see that in the headlines. Like all lives matter. It shouldn't be made as discrimination because if a 5-year-old black baby was killed by a white person, also that'd be major in the headlines because black lives do matter, and quite frankly, so do white. But we need to make this a petition to stop all this public confusion. Anyway, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to the today's news. I hope you all come through, subscribe. Like I say, I'm very open hands, and I love all ethnicities. I'll do. I must admit, if I talk to um, an Indian or Turkish or whatever language and they can't speak English, it's kind of frustrating. But it's like if me, I'm very fickle. I can't speak another language, so if I try and speak to them and they can't understand me, they probably think I'm a bit stupid, But that's just the way the world works. Unfortunately, we don't learn the language; it's hard to understand. So I'll say thank you for the guys that give me the time of day, and we do communicate international relations, especially the ones that can speak English as well. So they're very intelligent. They can learn like 3 or 4 languages. I speak to a Romanian; he can speak like 4 languages. So I really appreciate them sort of people, and we give me the time of day and acknowledgement and encouragement. Um, this is not like a racial disagreement or anything like that. So don't take it on board. I'm just trying to put a word out there that all lives matter and we should support all ethnicities and we should all share the same. We should preach it throughout the schools. Doesn't matter what community or background you come through. I know there's been a lot of abuse over the past over the black minority because there's not as many of them in England. I must admit, and they do get picked on. They do get picked on. I'll hold my hands up to it. But this is a big debate because I'm on not only on YouTube, I'm on Castbox, I'm on Big O TV. We've got different ethnicities listening in, so we should all support one another and love one another as brother and sister. Here we go. We're going into Baby Teeth, the teen film tackling cancer with humour. Are teen films getting more realistic when showing an experience of serious illness of makers of Australian teen drama Baby Teeth? Certainly hope so. Recent teen films such as The Fault in Our Stars now is good and 5 feet apart focus on a romance a couple enjoys when at least one of them is chronically ill. But Baby Teeth starring little woman Eliza Scanlon has a far more rebellious tone. 16-year-old Miller may be undergoing cancer treatment, but the film, a first feature by Australian director Shannon Murphy, shows the teen sneaking out to all-night parties, shoplifting, and falling for an older boy, Moses, who has a drug habit. Her default affluent parents played her rogue. One's Ben Mendelsohn and Elsie Davies for Game of Thrones are distraught. The story was originally a play written by Australian scriptwriter Rita Canaligias, and Shannon Murphy believes that Miller's intense journey to adulthood can be humorous as well as poignant. There was more life in Baby Teeth's script than anything else I've read in ages, even if it seems to be a story about death, she says. In such modern, contemporary storytelling, it's a very physical film. I think it's significant in context that every character seems to be very alive in their own bodies. Eliza Scanlon, 21, has also played terminally ill 19th century heroine Beth in Greta's Gerwig's Little Woman and agrees that writing about serious illness is changing. When I read the script, I really thought it was quite funny, she says. It's very much Australian humour. It's not the classic formulation of a joke. This is a story of a girl coming into her own body through sex and love, despite its essentially withering away. So much of a love story with Moses is physical. The actress says she reached the role by working with the organisation Canteen, which works with young Australians with cancer who are under the age of 25. Speaking to those teenagers was so incredibly helpful, she says, and they spoke a bit more about the relationship with their parents and how complicated that can be. The young teen with cancer can become the parent or the adult in the family, and that was really essential information for me. Miller's got a resilience, and it's something I gathered from speaking to them, and was more important than playing a victim. No one just surrenders to illness. It's always a fight, she says. Her journey is her trying to experience all that life has to offer, while learning to accept the dysfunction that's in her life and in her family. Toby Wallace, who plays Moses, was awarded the Best Young Actor award at 2019 Venice Film Festival, where Baby Teeth were premiered. We've got some magical news coming up, guys. So stay tuned. It's a bit of a local debate for everyone. Thank you, Sean, for gifting me, dear. The Guardian also praised the film, saying in a sub genie that often more kishly preaches one should live a short life to its fullest. Baby Teeth shows the fullest can be an ordinary day at the beach. When Miller turns to the camera away from herself and onto her parents, the sea, the sky, Deborah James, also known as Bowel Babe, was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer in 2016 and presents BBC's Radio 5 live. You, Me, and Big C podcast currently. She has no active cancer. She welcomes the idea of that content that resonates with teenagers living with the disease. Some young followers I can have feel almost guilt in aspects of life where they know they would be worried about their cancer, and naturally they're worried about the boy they like and who might not like them back, she explains. Teenagers can't help it, and they don't want to be defined by their illness. So many of them have the attitude of, I'm going to look fantastic, I'm going out to party. I remember a girl in my school when I was about age 16. She got skin cancer and died. One day she's at school, the next day she didn't turn up. All knew she had cancer at school, and she didn't turn up because she died of cancer. It's such a shocking way at a young age to lose your life. Imagine how our parents feel. Imagine how distraught we all were through school, knowing that your life could be so short. It's such a tragic loss. You can imagine what our family must have went through at that time. I'm not going to say too much because I might have friends and listeners in from, back from school on my social media. So I just want people to know, these things are very, very vital that I talk about, and my heart and condolences always goes out to family with lost ones and loved ones. I may not show it physically in person because I'm not able to be mobile as I used to be. I've got no vehicle to get about and, I was going to say showcase my compassion, but it's not really showcase, just being there for one another. That's what humanity do. Um, so there you go. Anyway, let's moving on to the next part, ladies and gents. Social media has been showcasing that for a while. And now, if films are doing it too, it gives people permission to do that. There is misconception that you shouldn't, and it is important that you come back with a why. Is there no medical reason? Cancer is also something you're dealing with in your mind, and if you can be, you should be as normal as possible. You've got to have fun in the darkness. In some of the darkest times, you can have some of the funniest times. I know I have. I remember my mum had cancer when I was joining the Royal Marines when I was 16. It's a big shock, And if anyone that's tackling cancer, even your family members, knowing what they're going for, it's a big, big shock to the system. So reading this really touches base. Obviously, as you can understand, losing that young friend in my school at the age of 16, and then my mum also getting it as well. Big shock to the system. Baby Teeth director Shannon Murphy agrees with James that teenagers get frustrated by and defined as a sick girl at school. I think it's accurate those teenagers are pushing back hardest against their parents, as we see in Baby Teeth, because they told us they know their time may be more limited. That's why Miller is accelerating through her time and at such a race and at such a higher frequency. I think probably in their younger years, going through like development of puberty and everything, it probably is the most immune time of catching cancer, turning point of your life. You're going through a lot of change. You're getting into the life where you're going to change from being a child into an adult. It's a shock to the system. Somewhere younger generation can't cope with that existence in place. I mean, I was a bit worried, growing up. Was playing all these different sport games, putting your own life at risk. You think playing hockey, all it takes is a hockey stick getting hit around the head, or the hockey ball getting hit in the head can kill you. Even cricket, very dangerous sport. All the sports we loved to play as a kid. Football, break a leg, anything can die. I remember a kid dying at football, five aside, his lung burst. Any given time, you can lose your life. So it's a big world, and there's a lot of things your life can get tragically taken away. Full of strong opinions. Other teens dealing with cancer, such as me, Earl, and Dying Girl. An adaptation of 2012. Jesse Andrews' novel. Tread the line between humour and tragedy. But Murphy says we were searching for the heart of her film to be about the unique feverish energy teenagers have that you'll never get back as an adult. You're so alive, so full of strong opinions. We wanted to nail that feeling. Hope we're getting a lot better and portraying that age group, she says. I want the film to exist on its own, whereas the teenage films can be drenched in this quirkily, off-kilter comedy, and while that's fun, I don't think that's it in escalates the teenage experience and doesn't quite take their feelings seriously. Whereas with this film, there's a reverence for Miller's story and the decisions she makes in the film. I think that makes it very much one of a kind in a way. Baby Teeth is released in UK cinemas on 14th August 2020. I mean, if you want to be a radio presenter, you got your own niche, your own market, your own stories you want to sell to the audience. Maybe you want to be a YouTuber or Castboxer, or you work all these different other social media platforms to present yourself in a professional formation. I say take it on with both hands and give it your best shot. But when you're reading, you want to depict things that relate with your life, relate to what's gone on around you, in your community, in your surroundings, the way you're brought up. Don't be scared of voicing your opinion. You got to be brave, but also don't try and target. You know, I'd say don't target criminals in your area because you could end up 7 foot under. You could upset the wrong person. Be careful what you preach, and be careful which things you target. Like I target sporadic knife crime, but I'm very reluctant to trying to put it to a test and stop it once and for all. It needs to be stopped. Sporadic knife crime is taking youngsters' lives through stupidity. If we can preach this now through our adult life into our parenting skills, hopefully our younger generation will realise that it's a bad thing to be taking someone's life. Anyway, as we're moving on, also driving under the influence of alcohol and narcotics is another major disaster. VJday, UK commemorates 75th anniversary as royals and lead tributes. The royal family is leading the UK's commemorations of the 75th anniversary of VJday. The day of World War II ended with Japan's surrender. I mean, this relates to me. Why? Because my granddad was in World War II. The Prince of Wales led a 2 minute silence of the National Memorial Arboretum, Arboretum in Staffordshire as of service of remembrance. The Duke of Edinburgh is also featuring of the commemoration, appearing in a photo of montage with the other veterans. I'm reading too fast, I need to slow down. And a message from the Queen, thank those who fought so valiantly, she said. Those of us who remember the conclusion of the Far East campaign, whether on active service overseas or waiting for news at home, will never forget the jubilant scenes of overwhelming sense of relief. The Prince of Wales attended the event at the Arboretum of the Duchess of Cornwall. He laid a wreath at the Quay Railway Memorial, as a small number of veterans and their relatives sat on the benches dotted around the garden to maintain social distancing. A Battle of Britain memorial fly past as commemorated those who fought. I'll tell you what, when you get into the royal family, part of the aristocracy socially, obviously I'm very political educated, widespread in my jurisdiction. When you get into royal family academic integrity, it gets a bit more vocal. get tongue tied with the words they use. It's more, it's a bit more. I call it superficial. Superficial. Very. It's more widespread with intelligence. I'm an intelligent bloke. Don't get me wrong, but this is almost like a bilingual language. It's English, but some words I don't use because it's more. I mean, a part of the aristocracy speaking within UK politics, absolutely. But getting into royal family, the way the Queen uses her bilingual tongue in, the prolific world as such, in a total different tongue. They speak in a total different tongue, English tongue of intelligence. Anyway, here we go. In a speech, Prince Charles said the veterans' service will echo through the ages. He referred to the description of them as a forgotten army, noting how many soldiers, nurses, and personnel felt aggrieved at the way of some of the public associated at the end of the World War II with the victory in Europe in May 1945. I mean, remember Queen Elizabeth I? I mean, she was very, very intelligent. She was not only very gifted in her monarch speech, she's very gifted in her spiritual um, philosophy as well. I mean, I'm pretty good at philosophy, writing my own philosophy, but this Queen Elizabeth was something else, very phenomenal, very fluent as well. Let us affirm they were serving veterans are not forgotten, rather than you are respected, thanked and cherished with all our hearts and for all the time, he said. The Prime Minister, who also attended the remembrance event, thanked those who have fought for restoring peace and prosperity. You might have heard me speak live off the cuff, so that's when you know someone's intelligent, when they can be very creative with their captive emotive side, how they use their mindfulness and creativeness at the same time. Less of when you experience your intelligence just flowing itself without thinking of what you've written down or anything. You don't write that anything down. You just talk off the cuff, straight off the cuff. And that's when you realise. When I was talking about compassion just recently on Facebook, over 1,000 viewers, it's pure in-depth intelligence. The Red Arrows, who were due to carry a fly past over the capital cities of all four nations of the UK, were forced to cancel their flights over Edinburgh and Cardiff due to poor weather conditions. They did land at Prestwick Airport to refuel and meet veterans, and remained on schedule to pass over both Belfast and Royal Hospital, Chelsea and London, home to three Burma-style recipients. Throughout the day, large scenes in locations across the country will feature a photo montage of veterans, each pictured with an image themselves from their time in service. It's good, isn't it? Don't you think it's good how the royal family always do like remembrance days? We have VJday and all them kind of red arrows and stuff for remembrance of loved ones and lost ones for our country. I mean, other people that are not in the country can find it a bit discriminating, but they should respect that. This is our country. Not saying it in a such a sentence. Is our country, and we are respecting. We shouldn't have had war, and our grand ancestors put our lives at risk to try and save our country from sinking. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're I've got Indian family, Pakistani family. At the end of the day, if you're Indian and Pakistani in our country, which my granddad was, we wouldn't be here today. We really wouldn't be here today. And I'm so thankful we're all alive. Even my granddad made it through the World War, and we had Gulf War against Iraq and Iran and things like that. Even my granddad made it through the war, so I'm so thankful that we're all here. We shouldn't have gone to war. No matter what country you're from, we shouldn't have been fighting one another, and war needs to stop. All this, all this racial attacks or whatever it is over Cold War or money orientated, politics. It's all politics, and it's ludicrous because we're not letting tax invasion, this, that, and the other. I don't know. I don't want to go into it, but we don't know the ins and outs of the duck's backside. That's all I can say. The montage is a rare appearance for Prince Philip, 99, who has only been seen a handful of times in public since retiring in 2017. Most recently from a miniature event at Windsor Castle. I reckon if you asked any politician that question, they'd not give you a strong, strict answer. I mean, there is no answer for it, is there? War. There's no answer for war. Why are we having war? You know. Prince Philip was a young Royal Navy officer aboard a warship in Tokyo Bay when Japanese surrendered. I mean, people ask me why I've done boxing. It's just at the apparent time, to me, it was a sport. But the actual outcome of it, you're putting your own life at risk. You're putting your own life at risk. Early Defence Secretary Ben Wallace was joined by military chiefs, and he placed a wreath on the cenotaph in London. Prisoners of War, VJday, or Victory over Japan Day, on 15th August 1945, ended one of the worst episodes in British history, during which tens of thousands of servicemen were forced to endure the brutalities of prison of war camps. It is estimated that there were 71,000 British and Commonwealth casualties of all the war against Japan, including more than 10,000 prisoners of war who died in Japanese captivity. More than 2.5 million Japanese military personnel and civilians are believed to have died over the course of the conflict. The fighting in Europe has ended in May 1945, but many Allied servicemen were still fighting against Japan in East Asia. Japan rejected the ultimatum for peace, and the US believed that dropping a nuclear bomb would force them to surrender. The US dropped two atomic bombs on Japan, and killing an estimated 214,000 people, and 2 weeks later Japan surrendered. The mark to mark the 75th anniversary, Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abbey sent an offering to controversial war shrine in Tokyo, but did not attend in person. However, two of his ministers did visit the Yasukuni Shrine, and in which 14 members who were later convicted by their allies as war criminals and commemorated. The National Memorial Arboretum seems to lend itself perfectly to the concept of a socially distanced commemorative service. Veterans. I mean, if any of you know ex-soldiers or ex-servicemen from around the globe, not just England, globally, please share and send my regards that we're still here today. Send my regards for the family that your family done something for their nation. Doesn't matter if it's just English, everyone involved in the World War that they made it through alive. If they lost their life during it, I'm sending out my condolences because none of us should be going to war. And I treat everyone as my brother and sister. Maybe I don't talk to you in person, but if you're listening, give me some acknowledgement and encouragement because I do love how we working together. NHS, fire service, anything that even if you're something as a farmer, you put in bananas and they're coming from the Caribbean or wherever you are in the world. You're putting your hand in you're getting your hands dirty to help the nation move forward. All nations move forward, not just our nation. Move all nations, all cultures. Anyway, let's moving forward, ladies and gents. Thank you for listening. Veterans of the Boomer campaign, their families and other guests sat on chairs spaced out on the grass between trees. The proceedings focused on the multinational and multicultural makeup of the Allied forces that fought the Japanese. Gurkhas alongside Sykes, I think that's how you pronounce it, sat next to the troops from the Welsh and Scottish regiments, representing the 40 nations involved in the Far East. I mean, at the time of the World War, it doesn't matter if you was, if you was Japanese and you live in England. If you're protecting your family in England, you're gonna do it. It doesn't matter who you're against. If I was English living in Turkey and we're going to war with Turkey, I'm gonna support my family. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna support number one at the end of the day. Whoever's against your household, they're against you, innit? It doesn't matter where they're from. After sitar music, reading from the British Asian actors, and speeches from the descendants of those who fought, the roar of aircraft engines could be overheard. A Lancaster Hurricane and three Spitfires in the Battle of Britain Memorial flew over the formation and in tribute. I must admit, I've done a Royal Marines training when I was 16, and I'll tell you something, I'm going to hold my hands up. I mean, over the years, I've fought some of the toughest men in the world. Um, I'm not trying to be brave or make out how big I am because it's a learning curve. I call it a learning curve. We had a thunder and lightning, the other day. So I'm putting myself in a situation where I've done a Royal Marines. Imagine if I was still in the Royal Marines and we had Pearl Harbor and whatever, Gulf War. I'd have ran and hid. I was scared of the thunder and lightning. I hid downstairs like a baby. 36 years old, man and boy. I've grown up through this world, up through, through fear of losing my life. The fear of losing my life, taking punches to the head, blows to the head with bats, hammers, you name it, I've been in the middle of it. And I'm scared of thunder and lightning still to this day. Imagine me at Pearl Harbor, the bombs going off. I'd have dug myself about a 30-foot hole to hide under while everyone's getting blown up. That's how selfish I'm scared of. I'm a thunder and lightning. It's not selfish, I don't like loud bangs and flashing lights. Those who could not stand were invited to do so for a 2 minute silence. I never liked fireworks either. The Prince of Wales then laid a wreath at the Burma Railway Memorial. Flowers had been placed between the sleepers and track make up the memorial. It was known as the Death Railway, and 16,000 prisoners of war died during its construction. It makes an incongruous yet incredibly poignant sight among the granite and brass of the other memorials. Boris Johnson earlier joined the other world leaders, including the US President Donald Trump, in recording a video message to the veterans. In the video, each leader says in turn, "To all I've served, we thank you." At the end of the day, until it actually happened, if I wasn't still in the Royal Marines and my mum wasn't ill, at the end of the day, I wouldn't know if I would. You don't know if you'd be scared or not to it happen. At the end of the day, if you've got to look after your country, you probably do a bit more than just run away from thunder and lightning. You'd have to stand and fight. You've got no choice. Otherwise, you don't come out alive. I think you have that sort of drummed in your head, and I think that's how I'd probably pull through if it did happen. But I don't agree with war. But anyone that has pulled through, I thank you because you're still alive. Anyway, let's moving on. Mr. Johnson added on his 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, we pay a tribute to the heroes deployed thousands of miles away in the mountains, islands, and rainforests of Asia. Unable to celebrate the victory in Europe and among the last to return home, today we recognise the bravery of ingenuity of those who, in the face of adversity, restore peace and prosperity to the world. I do understand why what some wars happen, as in Australia. I think it's China blew one of their fishermen boats out of water, so that's something that could start a war. Because why should that? We've all got laws on our border. We don't want people, um, we don't want foreign, people coming in their boats, shipping our waters no more. That's what Brexit's in aid of. So people are going to cause drama. War is going to erupt because when there's laws in place and people are sacrificing our laws, they're discriminating our law. So therefore, we do have to take it into our own hands. I understand that. But law wars over money or gold in coal or whatever is ironic. When you got like armies are causing rape and whatever through their community, that's when you need to step in. I totally understand that. The immeasurable sacrifice changed the course of history, and today's commemorations we take off the opportunity to say what should be everyday thank you. So I don't want you people thinking, mate, he don't know what he's talking about. In a big, brighter light, I do know what I'm talking about. Obviously, like you get countries like the RAA, they made up their own, thing and causing absolute mayhem throughout Cardiff. I understand things like that. They need to be sorted. That's when we need to step in. The army needs to step in and take sacrifices of these villains. Absolutely. And like the African Nigerian were having fights against each other just because they're different ethnicities. It's ludicrous. Shouldn't be doing it. Why are we doing it? It needs to stop. Nip in the bud before it happens. In a letter specifically addressed to the Far East veterans, Mr. Johnson said, "You will at last come home, but your achievements are written in the lights of glittering capitals of the dynamic region we see today. All of us were born after you have benefited from your courage in adversity. On the anniversary and every day hereafter, you will be remembered," he added. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer also recorded a message paying a tribute to the wartime generation. Even through the horrors of conflict showed us the spirit and determination that we need to always remember and always be grateful for. I must admit, I'm not a Labour fan. I really ain't a Labour fan. I didn't take much of a liking to Jeremy Corbyn. People say he had his good, he had his good parts and bad parts. He did have some interesting things to say, but also some very ludicrous things to come out with as well. You might find with me on my radio presenter, I come out with some strange things, especially when it comes to war. You might not take to what I say about war, my views on war, or my views on race and such. Everyone's got their own opinion. But as we know, Jeremy Corbyn was. He hated Jews, didn't he? Anti-Semitism towards the Jews. Sir Keir Starmer is a better leader. I'm not a Labour fan, but he is a better leader. Boris Johnson's got a very, very hard job. I'm a great Bojo fan. I've always been a Conservative fan. Um, mainly, I'll admit, mainly because of Boris, but I think I would have been anyway. Looking at Winston Churchill, and when my granddad served under Winston Churchill, I possibly would have been um, Conservative anyway from the beginning. I've got a picture of Winston Churchill from when my granddad was in World War Two, so that's a big, big push in that direction anyhow. And it's important that we face the challenges of today. We take inspiration from that generation. He said, "My mum's almost got me over to Lib Dems. My mum's a Lib Dem. My mum likes Rachel Johnson and Lib Dems. They're their virtues. I like Conservative. So I'm open. like an open book. I really like Nicola Sturgeon, what she's doing and how she comes across. She's very she's diplomatic, very mind strong, headstrong. The way she communicates with Parliament. Meanwhile, captive Sir Tom Moore, who served in the Burma campaign, as in encouraged the public to join our commemoration, describing VJ Day as the most special day. It was VJ Day when the pain of war could finally start to fall away as peace was declared on all fronts, said Sir Tom, who raised millions of pounds of NHS charities by walking laps of his garden during lockdown. I respectfully ask Britain to stop whatever it is doing and make some time to remember. We must all take time to stop thinking and be thankful that we're not for the ultimate sacrifices made of all those years ago by the brave band of men and women. We could not be enjoying the freedoms we have today, even in these current difficult times. What's taking place today? The commemorations began at sunrise with a piper playing Battle Over at the Imperial War Museum, HMS Belfast in London. Military pipers also played down in India, Australia, New Zealand, and Nepal in Japan. National memorial services have been held in Tokyo. Prince Charles and the Duchy of Cornwall attended national service on remembrance and led 2 minutes silence at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire. Mr. Johnson read their exhortation and the part of the war poem beginning, "They shall grow not old." A Battle of Britain memorial fly past has commemorated those who fought. Red arrows after performing a fly past over Belfast at 2 and London 5:30 p.m. p.m. The first such a fly past will take place in London Olympics. A photo montage featuring Prince Philip and other veterans is being shown at a number of large screens across the UK. On Saturday evening, the BBC will air a pre-recorded programme at 8:30 p.m. called the VJday 75, the nation's tribute, which will tell the story of those who served in the Far East and include a message from Prince William. Before we move on to UK politics and other stuff, while we're on the Buckinghamshire Palace, the War Memorial, the War Memorials. Did you hear the Queen Diana's speech? Queen Diana's speech the other day. It was on YouTube. I've seen it before. I had a little flick through, but I see the actual video before when she was saying about when I asked her if she's going to be could be the next queen. She couldn't because she had her heart. She's absolutely a phenomenal lady. How she got her life taken. That's why we all thought it was set up, and probably still today, some would still think was that set up by the Wolf family or death. We don't know. Well, else we can't point fingers because we have to respect the Wolf family. Their way, their say is final, and that is it. You can't argue against the Wolf family. You have to respect that. But she was a phenomenal queen. She put her life at risk and cared for the vulnerable. Like the Africans that were put through slavery, the Africans that weren't fed, um, were going through poor. She used to go over there. She used to go over to Africa and see all them Africans, that kids dying through poverty, like public austerity. They haven't got enough water drought and stuff. I've seen so many things in Africa and other countries, the same as Africa, having water drought and they die at the main road. They make a house at the main road, hoping someone fetch them water on the road one day, which happens sometimes. They lose their dog first. Their dog dies. You see a skeleton of their dog where it's just been evaporated by the sun because they've got no water to keep them hydrated. And then their kids die, and then their parents die, all by the side of the road. It's a shock. We're so lucky that we've got water, bread, and a house over a roof over the head of us. Some of us don't know how lucky we are to be alive today. Some of us take life for granted, like doing alcohol and narcotics. It's a shock to the system. I mean, we're all growing up, and hopefully, some of us, if you are going through this, crisis in life, alcoholism and narcotics, think of the others suffering, where you should be supporting them rather than supporting your bad habits. I don't drink. Narcotics is never part of me, never will be a part of me. So just think about your actions. Share the love, spread the proclamation, news and gatherings to support. Try and build a bigger, better nation together. I'm not just saying by me being a radio presenter, but if I get my word heard and my voice heard, people might start waking up to what's going on around us. Coronavirus gets cars off the road. Government urge. I mean, you've seen some of. I'm doing my radio, son. So yeah, people that listen in, I do sporadic knife crime, sporadic car incidents. I've got a lot of love and support for the people. I'm not narcissistic. People might think I've been narcissistic. Maybe a little bit. You can probably say I was a little bit doing professional boxing, but when I was doing professional boxing, it wasn't about me. It's about me supplying help for a child in need with cerebral palsy. All the money and support went into his needs. So I've never been a narcissistic person. I've always supported others. I've been a philanthropist pretty much all my life, and it's about time I get the upper hand in life and a bit of support. I put a lot of hard work and integrity into what I do. The government is being urged to get cars off the road as traffic in Britain returns to levels seen before the coronavirus lockdown. Between 87% and 105% of the usual amounts of vehicle journeys of time of year have happened in the past 2 weeks. Official figures show. Lidem said it was time to fundamentally rethink transport, and the Greens warned of gridlock. But a drivers' rights group said busy roads were a sign of economic recovery. The Association of British Drivers added that many people were using cars because they were still nervous about getting infected on trains and buses. Boris Johnson has promised a green recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. Last month, the Prime Minister said 2 billion would be spent on encouraging walking and cycling as part of the effort to improve health and fitness and build on changes in transport use during lockdown. In April, after restrictions on movement were imposed, journeys in motor vehicles dropped to 23% of the usual level in Britain. They have steadily increased since then. Cycling surged in popularity during lockdown, hitting a peak of almost 4 times the usual level over the May bank holiday weekend. This has since declined, but it's well still above average, with critics of the government saying it must be more to get people onto bikes. Liberal Democrat environment spokeswoman Vera Hobhouse said the COVID crisis created an opportunity to fundamentally rethink how we use our rail networks, but the government failed to be radical enough to deliver permanent change. Breathing fresh air and having more spaces on the roads for cycling was, for many, the only silver lining of the COVID-19 lockdown. She added that to get cars off the road, local authorities need to be given the power and resources to adapt road layouts and create distinct cycle lanes, separating cyclists from traffic. For our Labour Shadow Environment Minister, Ruth Jones said it was concerning that pollution levels were rising. She called for an urgent inquiry to the combined impact of the air pollution and COVID on the back. Asian and minority ethnic communities, e-scooter trial across Britain. Around a quarter of the usual number of train journeys are happening at the moment. For bus journeys, about half a normal amount are happening in London, and about two-fifths were elsewhere in Britain. Green Party Transport spokesperson Caroline Russell said that public transport capacity is still much reduced than the normal, with the ongoing need to stay physically apart. It's just a fraction of the people who use to catch the bus or the train get into a car. These traffic levels would quickly result in gridlock and a pollution spike. So it's crucial local authorities help people to make local journeys on foot and on bike. The government is trialling the use of rental electronic scooters, which says it could reduce urban road congestion in that way, allows for social distancing. Robert into Devon and Cornwall are expected to be gridlocked for as much of the weekend, with tourists arriving at tens of thousands and bad weather forecast. Association of British Drivers spokesperson Roger Lawson said, everybody wants quieter roads, including drivers, but we disagree on how we do it. In many in many places, put on cycle lanes has squeezed traffic and made congestion worse. There's been no provision for better roads, which would ease things. The A said that despite the traffic returning to near average levels overall, the situation from the far was normal because more people are holiday making in Britain during a pandemic. The key question is what happens when kids go back to school. A spokesperson said the Department for Transport was approached for a comment. Ladies and gents, have you guys got a mobile phone device or an iPad? Really need to think about diverting over to O2 device. If you haven't got O2 device and you're just listening through your laptop, you've got your speakers on, you're listening to them on radio FM, you're listening on YouTube, you're listening to them on Big O TV. I've got, at this precise moment, I've got over 1,000 listeners on all my applications. You really need to think about diverting over to O2 device. O2 customers have got the biggest, fastest broadband. You've got full coverage network wherever you go in the UK. Obviously, if you're out on boat like Norfolk Broads or on the seashore, you lose signal because there is no signal wave in the or current out in the ocean or in the river. But O2 devices are, or also on the London Underground, you lose signal as well because you're not picking up the signals. So they are the best, definitely the best network. I'm not just saying it because I've had every single network. I've had no distractions from O2 networks. The best device, the best handsets, and I can get the best offers. I've had, I think you can have a 2 year contract. I think I did with my Hawaii phone. I've got iPhone 11 and a Hawaii phone, and I've got an iPad. Two Hawaii phone, Hawaii iPad, and I'm on BT as well. BT broadband in my house, which is also phenomenal. You know, we've got fiber optic, very very powerful, very fluent. I mean, I want to do 4 devices at once, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm on my big old TV. I'm on my Castbox FM. I'm on my YouTube, and I'm daily doing my radio casting. It's very fluent, and I'm getting mass information, and people will listen to my voice because I can talk some great common sense. I mean, if you hear about me talking about compassion, the way I see society and how we should come together, realistically, you should sit there and think. Fundamentally, it's not just challenge; it's quite academically, quite intelligent, integrated in what he needs to get spoken, how he spreads the love, and how he spreads the support for our democracy as a whole. You know, that's what I need support with. People subscribe and give me some acknowledgement. I'm blowing my own trumpet a little bit, but if you listen daily to what I talk about, you get my drift. Coronavirus lockdown to ease further in England from Saturday. Newlyweds will be able to celebrate. I mean, this is what people have been waiting for. Through this pandemic lockdown, I've been reading people can't get married because of social distancing, this, that, and the other. We're coming out of social distancing slowly. I thought we was going to have another wave. Um, I don't think we are. Pubs might get shut in September to get kids back in school, which is fair enough. Kids should have gone back to school before parents went to the pub because if parents get coronavirus, the kids are going to get it anyway. I mean, going to the pub is a bit rational, you know. Or parents can go to the pubs, drink, possibly take their narcotics, mix with other youth as well. Then they can bring it back in the house. That is what I think is ludicrous. I don't know if you'll feel the same on the same wavelength as me. Maybe you got different ideas. Obviously, the people that put this past through the comments had different, different wavelengths, different directions. Such as the ones you vote for, and you're not voting for me, or I'm not in there as an MP. I see things differently, in the way it should have been done. Kids should be at school first, and then adults can have the fun. But adults are so quick to get off their mark and have their bit of fun before thinking about their kids' future. That's the shocking thing about it. That should have been the argument in Parliament. That shouldn't be the argument if adults get coronavirus, let your kids get it anyway. That's a bit crazy. I don't know who thought that idea. Who voted for that idea, anyone? Because that's the sort of academics you need in Parliament. Someone with a good direction or choice, which is me, absolutely. I've been trying to stop sporadic knife crime for a long time. And the best way to do that is give only butchers, chefs, a license to go and buy a knife out of the shop. Parents have, when they've got children at home, shouldn't be allowed a knife at home. So, sharp objects where your kids can go and put them in a bag, take them to school, take someone's life. It should be used plastic knife. Oh yeah, you can't cut meat. Well, boil the meat so it's succulent and soft. Then way you cook meat in the future by boiling it. Simple as that. Burger, beef you can eat, any mince you can eat. Steak and that, you need a sharp knife. Well, you have to boil it, make it soft, boil it for 4 hours. Why can't you boil meat for 4 hours? Tell me that. Boil meat and then tell me if you can eat it. You can. I've done it myself, and you don't get ill if you boil it for long enough. More beauty treatments, small wedding reception, and live indoor performance will be able to resume in England from Saturday as lockdown rules are eased. Bowling alleys, casinos, and soft play centres will also be able to reopen, PM Boris Johnson has announced. It comes as the government introduces bigger fines for failing to wear a mask in places where it is compulsory. Before I move on, I just want to get on to because obviously I'm racing off after that conversation by boiling meat. I've done it Christmas. I boiled beef. I boiled lamb leg. Me and a few of my older friends there, they didn't believe me at first. You can't boil meat. Yeah. Well, how do you think, the kings in the olden days, long, long, long time, ancient times ago, it's a big ball, all their food and big meat. They had no other way of cooking it on their fires, the stoves. And we did it, and it's the best, most succulent meat you can have. You don't need an oven. You don't need an oven. My like I say, my integrity goes way back. I've been studying history and religious studies for years and years. How kings and queens used to, sit round the throne and have big gas stove, well, not gas stove fires. You have log fires and cook their meat in a big pot like a witch's pot, and heat their meat. And they sit there with big a big pig leg, which we call ham. What we cook it, it's ham on a bone, and exactly what they're eating. It's boiled over a big fire. Exactly how I done my thing over a gas stove in a big in a big in a big pot. So do you know what I mean? It's about using fundamental of your brain capacity. Realising you don't need a sharp knife. It comes off succulent. It literally falls off the bone as well. Boil it for 2 3 hours. It's cooked. Meanwhile, quarantine measures have been imposed on more countries, including France and in the Netherlands. The easing of lockdown rules is now due to come into force on Saturday after being postponed from the 1st of August due to concerns about a slight increase in the number of people testing positive for coronavirus in England. Last week, figures from the Office for National Statistics showed this may be levelling off. However, the latest government figures released on Friday showed the number of daily positive tests in the UK and the highest it's been in since 14th of June. In the 24 period up to 9 BST, it was a further 1,441 confirmed cases, taking the number to 316,337. Under the latest change, indoor theatre, music and performance venues will be open to with social distance audiences. Wedding receptions in the form of a sit-down meal of up to 30 guests will be permitted. The piloting of a small number of sporting events to the test of safe return of spectators will resume, commencing with the final of the World Snooker Championship at Sheffield Crucible Theatre over the weekend. Some of my local friends, they professional snooker players, would love to be hearing this right now. They've got their own snooker club and they have their own TV, and they can set out to sit there and watch it. So imagine casinos, bowling alleys, skating rinks, soft play centres will allow to be reopened. Close contact beauty services such as facials, eyebrow threading, eyelash treatments, makeup and application, and microblading will resume. Pilots will take place at the conference venues ahead of the expected resumption of business events from 1st of October at the earliest. The new guidance will not apply in the areas where local lockdown measures are in place, the government said. Local lockdown rules vary from place to place, but since July measures have been introduced in Leicester, Preston, East Lancashire, parts of West Yorkshire, Greater Manchester and Aberdeenshire and Lancashire. There's quite a lot going on there at the minute, weather permitted. I feel so, you can imagine living there, that train. Absolutely, it's horrendous. It's horrific. Shock. It's a shock. I mean, why do things like this happen? Worst of the worst can happen, and it really has hit down on them. I would feel so sorry for the families, loved ones, and lost ones in that constituency. The Department of Health said restrictions on household gatherings in parts of the northwest, West Yorkshire, East Lancashire, and Leicester will continue. The latest data does not show a decrease in the number of cases per 100,000 people. In the area shows continued rise in cases in Oldham and Pendle, while numbers remain high in Blackburn and Darwin. The department said the measures will be reviewed again next week. Developed administrations in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have the power to set own timings for the easing of restrictions. Prime Minister said that plans to reopen up more of the economy this weekend will allow more people to return to work and the public to get back to more normal things they have missed. But Mr Johnson has reiterated a warning of the government. We not hesitate to put on the brakes if required or to continue to implement local measures to help control the spread of coronavirus. New guidelines will also mean that staff offering close contact services, including hairdressers, will now have to wear a face mask as well as clear visor. The government said the move, which follows a new evidence from the Scientific Advisory Group of the Emergency Sage, is aimed to protecting customers and staff from respiratory droplets caused by sneezing, coughing, or speaking. It also apologises to businesses that operate remotely, such as massage therapists working in people's homes, and those learning in vocational training environments. Nightclubs and discos are among the venues that remain closed in law. On Thursday, France reported 2,524 new coronavirus cases in 24 hours, the highest daily increase since its lockdown was lifted in May. Under current guidance, people who refuse to wear face covering where it is required for a £100 fine, which can be reduced to £50 if paid within 14 days. The new enforcement measures will see the penalty repeatedly doubled for frequent offences, up to a maximum of £3,200. Most people in this country are allowing the rules and doing their bit to control the virus, but we must remain focused and we cannot be complacent, Mr Johnson said. That is why we are strengthening enforcement powers available to use against those who repeatedly flout the rules. Just as the case of COVID-19 rose in the spring, peaked and fell, so has the use by police of fines and enforced social distance restrictions. It means that instead, officers have increasingly preferred to engage, explain and encourage in the police jargon. It is difficult, sometimes risky work encouraging large groups of young people to leave legal parties had led to violence. Senior officers say they are prepared to prosecute the organisers. However, in general, police believe they have got people to follow the rules hundreds of thousands of times without handing out fines. The question is whether local breakouts of the virus and the risk of a second wave will increase the pressure for a tougher approach. As countries are added to the list of those which returning travellers have to quarantine, there could also be questions about whether they are realistic in the risk of catching people who refuse to do so. In England, face coverings are mandatory in many indoor settings, including public transport, shops and museums, with sometimes exemptions from children and medical grounds. Transport from London British Transport Police have already made around 91,501 interventions based on our present face covering guidance. The government said preventing 4,397 from boarding, asking 3,030 to leave network and issuing 341 penalty notices. There was also a clampdown on illegal gathering for more than 30 people, which could be irresponsible to hit spot fines of up to £10,000. You can imagine, I can quite imagine people just going beyond just to break these rules just for their alcohol and narcotic fix. It's ludicrous to say the least. But according to the government, forces across England, Wales have already stepped up patrols and prevent illegal gatherings in areas of concern such as Leicester and Greater Manchester, where it said deployments have sometimes been larger in New Year's Eve. Last weekend, Westmisnter police shut down 125 parties and raves and closed a pub, taking action to stop illegal gathering and antisocial behaviour across the region. Further detail on enforcement measures is set to be set out in the coming week. Home Secretary Priti Patel said she would not allow progress against the virus to be undermined by a small minority of sensitive individuals. These measures send a clear message. If you don't cooperate with the police and if you put out health at risk, action will flow. I've gone into something that I want to talk about. My closest and most loved relative is right next to me, not to life. One that made me have belief of all ethnicities is one. My mother. And we've always said Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, a massive part of my life. A massive, massive part of my life. My mum, my auntie, my uncles. I've got white uncles as well, so we can't get in that. We've never been brought up to get on that subject of racial abuse. I've seen Black Lives Matter, absolutely Black Lives Matter, but also white man's lives matter. We had that Floyd get killed by a white policeman all over the news as a racial attack. All over the news as a racial attack. Well, gonna get into the next news because it's always going on. White hating, black hating, white hating, black hating, white hating. We don't see in the parliament, in our parliament, why lives matter because it is a minority of white people in parliament. Because UK is made up of more white people than coloured people, quite frankly. But in today's news, it's a big shock, and I just want to let people know that I'm supporting it, even though I'm trying to go through with politics and trying to support my family. And I've got a mixed culture in my family. I see things wider, more clearer, and I support all ethnicities. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not being sitting on the fence. I'm not taking race sides because I don't. National media silent after black man executes 5-year-old white boy in front of his house. Where is the national media outrage, the chants, the marches, the sympathy after a 5-year-old white child was shot and killed by a black man for no apparent reason? There are among questions we're asking for 5-year-old Cannon Hunant was shot and killed as he's playing on his bike outside his house on Sunday. WTVD has reported the suspect who has been apprehended after a manhunt, Darius Nathaniel Sessoms, 25, is facing a first-degree murder charge. There's mental health for this guy. Why would you shoot a 25-year-old white boy? 5-year-old Cannon Hinant was executed in front of his sisters for accidentally riding a bike on his neighbour's lawn. There's no pain or justice system can impose his killer Darius Sessoms that will equate to justice. When officers arrived, they found 5-year-old Cannon Hinant suffering from a gunshot wound. Officers and EMS immediately began performing life-saving efforts. Hinant was taken to Wilson Medical Centre, where the child later died. My friend told me this, Linda Olive, a great friend. We've been lifelong friend. I've been a lifelong friend with the family, and I'll set up a petition today about this, just to let everyone know. All different races taking sacrifices. I don't think this is a white hate or the black hate and whatever. It's just mental health at that apparent time. Shocking to say the least. It just so happened to be the opposite race, same as Floyd, I believe. I don't think he killed him just because he's black. He must have had a massive rage going through his head at the time, maybe an outrage of his wife before he went out of the house, or a drug fix or something. We don't know what was going on in their apparent mood or time. It's not necessary to say the least, it's a racial attack. So we're leaving that one there as it is, but I'm going to still set this up as a petition because Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, and this situation is a young 5-year-old. It's sickening. Wilson police have identified the alleged shooter as Darius Sessoms, 25, of Wilson. Police announced just after 4:30 p.m. on Monday that he had been arrested and is in custody of Wilson Police Department officers and members of the U.S. Marshals Carolinas Regional Fugitive Task Force. Really, everybody just wants the answers to as why this was done. There will be justice, his uncle Alan Wooten said to WPSA. The family of the victim says they had known the man for a long time as they lived near each other. We used to play together and I never thought he'd kill someone. And mother now has to lay her son at rest at 5 years old, which she should never have to do. He will never be forgotten. Hinart's mother's cousin, Rachel Pipkin, said, Carlton Stevens, the male of Wilson, came to pay his respects to the family and said he was shaken by the tragedy. I have a child that's 5-year-old. My heart broke right then. I went home right then and took my baby and just hugged her, he said. You couldn't even imagine. I've got my own kids. It's shock. It's absolute shock. If people don't sign my petition, it just show you're selfish. It will show your selfish attitude because I really do try and get my support around the globe. This is not even in my country. I shouldn't really have to get myself in delving in other people's business, but I'm going to put my heart and my time into this specific episode. It's my compassion. We all should support it everywhere, nationally, globally. in every ethnicity, every country. We've got to start breathing and thinking the same positive vibe. Get off your not narcotics. Get off your alcoholism. Think fluent. Think support one another. It's proclamation news and gatherings, ladies and gents. Thank you for actually coming through. I've done an hour. I was going to carry on, but you know what? An hour's enough for reading. An hour's enough to engage. An hour's enough for people who actually come in, give me some acknowledgement and encouragement. I just want to say thank you. One big thank you to a long life friend, Linda Olive. I've been great friends with the family for many, many years. And you know what? She gives me, every time I see her page, she's always got something interesting to read. And I thank you for that. If she ever is listening, and I'm not even she ain't listening. I know just my thoughts and the way I take things in. I'm notified. It gets notified from my reading, daily reading. I read different media. I read sometimes read tabloid newspapers. Sometimes I read broadsheet newspapers. Sometimes I pick things up off social media. That's what a reporter does. He picks things up. He depicts certain things that are necessary and it should reach out to the audience and hopefully they abide by some of my initiatives as well, which makes a good journalist, someone that can depict something out of journalism and bring it to task with the audience. Thank you. God bless. Peace out. Have a great day. Monday tomorrow, start the week. Always be blessed to start Monday and always do more for God than you did yesterday. Take care. One love. Speak soon. Hallelujah.